Jack here, and today I wanted to take a quick opportunity to explain what the internet's been divided on over the last 24 hours, and that is whether or not you hear Yanny or Laurel in the viral Yanny versus Laurel clip.
Laurel.
So if you don't know what this is, basically you're living under a rock, but essentially it's a clip of someone saying something. I'm not going to tell you quite yet, and it sort of sounds like Laurel while other people think it sounds like Yanny. And so there's been this huge debate over which one it actually is. And some people can hear both of them at different times when listening on different speakers, and others can hear neither. So being super into science and technology, I decided it would be a good idea to try and figure out why this worked. So I started by testing someone who had never heard the recording. And I said, tell me what you hear. I didn't give them any choices like Yanny or Laurel. I just told them to tell me what they hear, and they told me they heard Gary, which isn't Yanny or Laurel. And they were convinced that it was Gary, and then I told them that it was either Yanny or Laurel, and they couldn't believe it was either of those two. Then I went up to someone else and I asked if you heard Mary or Maury, giving them those two options and reassuring them that it was one of those, and my subject said Mary. And they were convinced that it was Mary, when in reality, it was either Yanny or Laurel. So that just proves my point that a lot of times people hear what they want to hear. If I told you that in the recording, people were saying, subscribe to Jack Gordon, and you just took a quick listen, thinking that's what you were going to hear, you might actually hear, subscribe to Jack Gordon. Well, no, you probably wouldn't, but you see what I mean. That's just the effect of priming. People hear what they want to hear. But when given the option of Yanny and Laurel, why are so many people divided over which one they hear? Well, it actually all comes down to the frequencies of the audio recording. So clearly, if you listen to it, it sounds super tinny, and if you hear Laurel, you probably notice that the Laurel is really low quality. If you hear Yanny, you probably notice that it's almost like the sound of a fan is in the background, or maybe someone going, oh. With both words, it doesn't sound quite right, but those are the closest words we can come up with to describe it. Well, it all turns out to be which type of frequency your brain is listening to. If you listen to just the high frequency, you'll hear Yanny. If you listen to just the low frequency, you'll hear Laurel. Because, I'll be totally honest, that's actually what's being said. The sound clip actually originated from a vocab list, which used the word Laurel and had an audio recording of somebody saying it. But then someone recorded the recording, and that's when someone posted it, and it kind of went viral, and that's where we are today. But the reason you can hear Yanny in the background is because of the low quality of the microphone the person was using. Whether they were using poor speakers to play the audio or a poor microphone to record it, you hear that tinny sound, and that's what produces the word Yanny. It's hard to hear on most good microphones, but if you pull up a computer microphone right now, specifically one of Apple's MacBook Pro microphones like the one I have, you start talking into it, you'll clearly hear that tinny sound. Or if you go back to my most recent video, the iPhone 3G video, and you listen to the mics on the iPhone 3G, you'll hear the exact same effect. It almost sounds like someone's doing a really high-pitched hum in the background of your voice. So why are people hearing the word Yanny over just plain humming? Well, it really just comes down to the similarities between the word Laurel and Yanny. Sure, they might sound really different, but really, that's just difference in sounds of the letters. One has more of an ooh sound, and one has more of an ah sound. So you kind of say it in different ways, so to your mouth it feels really different. But to your brain, they're actually really pretty much the same. They both start and end in the same consonant, either L or Y, and they both have some sort of consonant in the middle, and then it's surrounded by vowels. So the actual structure of the word is pretty similar. And if you look at sound waves of just anyone saying the two words without any hum or pitch in the background, you'll see that they're actually really similar. So it makes perfect sense if your brain is listening to the high-pitched frequencies to, when someone says Laurel, hear Yanny. But why, you might be thinking, would I hear the high-pitched frequencies instead of the low-pitched frequencies? Or vice versa, and what does that say about me? Well, honestly, it says just about nothing. It's practically completely by chance. If you look at a recent Twitter poll, it showed that 53% of people heard Laurel and 47% of people heard Yanny. So there was just a slight edge to Laurel, and I believe the reason that is that that was the word that was actually being said, so it was a little bit more clear than Yanny, but they're so close, it really doesn't make much of a difference. Some of the reasons you might be hearing Yanny over Laurel, though, could be if you have a little bit of a higher voice, or if you've been listening to some high-pitched music, then your ears are used to be listening to some high pitches, and so that's what it's going to be listening for in the recording. Second, it could be the age of your ears. When you're really young, it's really easy to hear high pitches, and it's the reason that when you play that mosquito audio test, young people can hear it, but old people can't. While when you're a little bit older, most of the time you're going to be hearing Laurel because the high-pitched frequencies kind of go out. And if you have hearing loss, you'll see if you take off your hearing aids, you'll only hear Laurel, and that's almost a 100% fact. So honestly, hearing one or the other doesn't really mean much about you, and it's something to be scared of, but it is something that's really, really interesting, and I thought it was worth the video. So if you did enjoy this episode, make sure to leave a like. Also, comment down below what you thought. I had some really weird theories when I first heard this about whether or not you needed to listen really close or listen really far, but really it all just comes down to your brain deciding whether or not to listen to the high frequencies or the low frequencies. And of course, there are some differences depending on what type of speaker you're listening to. Like if you're listening to it on an iPhone 3G speaker, which obviously we went over a couple days ago, is really tinny, then you'll probably just hear the Yanny. If you're listening to it on a bass-boosted giant speaker with a subwoofer, you're going to mostly hear Laurel, because that's like the bass and the Yanny is the treble. So yeah, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. I'm Jack. Peace out.